Welcome into Around the Felt. I am your host, Reagan Loescher. I am here with my co-host, Colin Tong. And tonight, we will be recapping the Jacksonville Jaguars 2024 season. We'll both be giving them a letter grade. And then we'll kind of break down the free agent moves they've made so far, the new coaching hire with Liam Cohen and his new staff. And then we'll get into where we want them to go into the draft this year and, ultimately how they can improve for 2025. But Colin, you ready?
I'm ready to roll, brother. Let's talk.
How you doing?
Good? I'm doing great. I'm just super excited to talk about the Jaguars and just totally tear this team apart for the 2024 season.
All right. Well, let's hear it.
It's a big old fat F for me. When you consider they won 4 games, when you consider they had one of the worst defenses in the league, when you consider the fact Trevor Lawrence only played 10 games, had a pretty nasty concussion, and in those 10 games, it's pretty bad. Only threw for 2,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, 7 picks. A year after 21 touchdowns to 14 picks. Not ideal. Doug Peterson obviously gone now, and rightfully so. He just seemed to lose the locker room, and it just seemed like they never recovered from that 2023 collapse in the second half of the season when they were looking good atop the division and just completely fell apart. I don't know what was going on in that locker room, but they just didn't seem very motivated. They didn't play well. Etienne in particular, you were super excited about, and he was god-awful last year. Like, he started losing a lot of touches to Tank Bigsby, and, Bigsby was getting more touches than Etienne towards the end of the season. I mean, some positives. Brian Thomas Jr. is a superstar. I think you are extremely excited that you have him as your go-to guy right now, and clearly in this offseason, which we'll get into, but they've kind of reconstructed their offense to be centered around Brian Thomas Jr., which I think is a smart move. Defensively, Trayvon Walker continues to make strides, which is a positive. Josh Hines-Allen was good, but other than that, really not much more to write home about here, man. This is an F for me. 4 wins, coach fired. The guy you took number 1 overall, who was supposed to be generational, has not lived up to that by any stretch of the means. I mean, he does have the one playoff win coming from behind to beat the Chargers, but, at this point in Trevor Lawrence's career, with 4 seasons under his belt, I think you would be hoping more than just one playoff win from Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to argue with you on your F. I mean, you were pretty bold saying an F, huh?
I mean, not really. Can you give him anything higher than an F?
No,
honestly.
No, it was definitely an F. I mean, you could argue based off expectations to where they finished, you could say they had the worst out of any team. I mean, there's a couple other teams I'd put in that same boat, but the Jaguars were a team where you're like, yeah, they definitely can win the division. At the very least, they'll be competing for a wild card. I mean, their owner, Shad Khan, came out and said, this is the best roster.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, dude, he did say that.
And then they go out and win 4 games. And I understand, Trevor Lawrence only played 10 and, Doug Peterson was there the whole season, yada, yada, yada. But it was just a lost season, regression from a lot of key players. I mean, the Brian Thomas breakout was nice. And then, it'll be different going into this year. I'm not going to get too far ahead of it. But then guys like Kirk, Ingram, Etienne all take step backs, even though 2 out of the 3 guys aren't even on the roster anymore. So I just had to give him an F. I mean, even the defense, and it's just, I feel like the AFC South was very, very bad. You could make a case that they were the worst division in the football. Like, the Texans obviously won the division, but even them, like, if they're in a lot of other divisions, and I know it's a hypothetical, they're probably not winning it. So the fact you only muster 4 games and you get to play the Texans twice, the Titans twice, and the Colts twice, it's just not a good look, man. Not a good look at all.
And Reagan, to your point, it's also, you had the division like by the balls in 2023 and you collapsed so Houston could win it. And that was when Stroud was really playing well. And you were like, in the offseason, you're like, oh shit, like Stroud's coming. Like, he's going to be a top quarterback in this league. But we saw Stroud have a down year, a bit of a sophomore slump. He wasn't that good. And you can't expect that from Stroud every year, given what we saw from him as a rookie, like winning a playoff game. So this has almost seemed like a year in which the AFC South was totally up for grabs. And the way you started 2023 gave you confidence that this team was talented enough to compete for the division, but they just never put it together in this season. And, it sucks because if they had a similar start to 2023, they could have had this division.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I mean, the one thing I'll say is Brian Thomas gives you hope for the future. Liam Cohen coming in, and it's interesting what they're doing because I believe they have the youngest coach and GM duo, and they brought in a couple other young coaches. So they're going like pure young, pure analytics. So this will definitely be an interesting test to see if it works out for future teams. If they have success early, will a lot of other teams try to go this quote unquote youth route? Because this is, it was big at the time when Sean McVay was hired, but this is even like a whole nother level compared to that.
100% big youth movement, and their head coach, GM, and VP of football ops, this is all their first time holding those roles, right? So this draft is going to be really interesting to see, not right away, but a year or two from now, how well they do, right? This is their first time, all three of those guys who all report directly to Shad Khan. So there could be a bit of a power struggle there, but their first time all making these types of decisions, like being the shot callers. So, you got pick number 5 here. Hopefully they don't butcher it. And when you look at this team, I mean, dude, they were the 25th total offense last year, 26th scoring. They were the 31st total defense, 27th scoring. They were worst in the league against the pass. So at pick number 5, there's a lot of options. But before we get to the draft, let's talk about some of the moves thus far in the offseason. Out. Evan Ingram, released him, traded Christian Kirk to your division rival.
That was
Texans.
Weird. That was
weird.
I didn't understand that
and
one.
Kirk was Trevor Lawrence's go-to guy the year they made the playoffs. So that's interesting. I understand the contract was hefty and you're trying to cut back on that, but Mitch Morse, your center, retired, and you lost Andre Sisco to your Jets, Reagan.
Yes,
they did
sir.
bring in some help. They brought in Jordan Lewis at corner, which they desperately needed corner. Corner's still in play in my mind at pick 5. They brought Jordan Lewis, 3-year, $30 million deal. Patrick McCarry, the guard from Baltimore, 3 years, $37 million. So I think that's a good addition for them. De'Ami Brown at receiver to, replace some Christian Kirk. 1 year, $10 million.
He got a nice contract.
Yeah, $10 million for De'Ami Brown. So solid deal for him. He's shown some good things in Washington. So big role for him to step into here in Jacksonville. That leaves us at pick number 5, Reagan. A lot of ways they could go. You got to think, I've even seen edge rusher floated around, like Jalen Walker I've seen floated around to Jacksonville, because Trayvon Walker can kick inside on passing downs, and Jalen Walker can rush off the edge. Jalen Walker can play some off-ball backer for you if you're going to go on the edge with Hines Allen. And Trayvon Walker, seeing a lot of Mason Graham, the most popular pick at number 5 for the Jags. And it makes sense because then, you're starting to really, like, that's the strength of your team if you add Mason Graham to that defensive line. No doubt about it. I wouldn't count out Tyler Warren. With Evan Ingram being gone, I think that is
5, maybe.
The ceiling. That's the ceiling for Tyler Warren, 5 to the Jags. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I could see him going 8 to the Panthers, so I don't see why not. He could go 5. I mean, or if they, trade back too. If a team, like, I know I keep saying that, but if a team gets desperate and they're like, hey, we like Tyler Warren at 5, but Shadore's sliding and one of these teams want to trade up, let's trade back to, I don't know, 10, 11, and then you get Tyler Warren anyway. I don't think there's going to be a huge market for him that early, so they might be able to trade back. But I like the fit, and the fact that they let Evan Ingram go makes it seem even more likely. And Kirk. Yeah. I mean, also Ted at 5 too is possible.
Ted at 5 is possible, yeah.
To pair with Brian Thomas. I mean, Brian Thomas definitely proved he is a true number 1, so you don't need to go wide receiver. So that's why I like Tyler Warren a little bit more, but yeah, I mean, they have a lot of different routes they could go. I mean, even Will Johnson, they could go for the other corner at 5.
Yeah. I will say Brenton Strange did show some good things last year. So it's not like tight ends necessarily the biggest need. And we did just see Brock Bowers slide to 13 last year, 14. So it does seem rich to take tight end at 5. But if you're sitting there and you're like, Warren's just the best player on our board, I wouldn't hate it at all. Because
I mean,
let's
is it
be honest,
possible
they need
also?
Trevor Lawrence to be that guy. They need him to be.
I'm not going to rule out Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter falling to 5. It's still possible.
Yeah, we're assuming, that
Like,
Hunter and Carter. Carter will definitely be gone. It seems like in my mind, there's no way Carter gets past New England at 4. Hypothetically, if it goes 2 quarterbacks in Carter in the top 3 and the Patriots are at 4 and they're just dead set on taking offensive line, I think there's a very slim chance that Travis Hunter could be there at 5, and then it's a home run. Because you had the worst passing defense in football last year. That's your number 1 corner. And then you have another big play threat to play receiver a little bit alongside Brian Thomas. Like, there's a very slim chance of it happening, but I think that's a dream scenario for Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm not ruling that at all. That's what I'm saying. I think there's a very good chance that could happen as well.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest, though. Mason Graham just seems like the pick, like a stud defensive tackle that has pass rushing upside. They always go high, and it's just so hard to find one of those guys. And as a Jets fan, and I know as a Giants fan, how much it can help your defense when you have a guy that could push the pocket in the middle and be dominant and be a double-digit sack guy from the interior. And I think Mason Graham has that upside, and you really start to see, with Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker, like, you have a lot of premium draft capital. That'd be Hines Allen picked at 7th overall, Walker 1st, Mason Graham 5th. That's investing draft capital in the trenches, and Philadelphia has shown us that's how you win Super Bowls.
Yeah, and I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, Jacksonville, with all the guys they let go, it definitely doesn't seem the most promising, but we saw what Liam Cohen was able to get out of Baker Mayfield last year. So, maybe, obviously I'm going to give Baker his credit, but if Liam Cohen can have that kind of resurgence out of Trevor Lawrence, I mean, hey, a great quarterback can hide a lot of holes in any team. So even if on paper the Jaguars aren't the sexiest rosters, if you're able to unlock that potential that we knew Trevor Lawrence could have and was projected to have, then this could be a playoff team. Like, I still think even with this team not being the sexiest on paper, they could easily win the AFC South. I think you can make a debate that and the NFC South are the 2 most wide open divisions in football, where you can't say there's one clear team that's going to win it. Like, yeah, the Texans are the easy pick. They've won the past 2 years.
Same with the Bucs, right? Right. Yeah.
Yeah. They've won it the past 2 years, but neither teams are sexy. I mean, they're usually one and done at best. So I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, they're getting in with like 9-10 win seasons. It's not like they're dominating and winning 12-13 games. So, a couple losses there, and one of those teams gets hot at the right time and does well in the division. Yeah. So I would say it's wide open.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely think that Houston's the leader of the clubhouse, especially given how that defense looked last year, and you're hoping that Stroud's going to bounce back. But, like we talked about earlier, man, the Jags had this thing. It was theirs to lose in 2023, and the wheels just never got on the bus for 2024, So it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility here. But let's get Drock in here for some questions on the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Colin Otani Cash, congrats, brother.
I know. Big parlay. 6-legger hit, bang.
This is not around the bases. No.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's a big parlay my boy smacked on the around the felt, so I got to give it to him. So. All right, my one question for you guys. My man, Travis Etienne.
Oh, that's your boy.
Let's
talk about my trade offer. Should have took my trade offer.
I should have. Should Travis Etienne be replaced as RB1?
I mean, he slightly has been, right? I mean, he had 150 carries last year compared to 267 in 2023. He only averaged 3.72 yards per carry. He only had 558 rushing yards. His touchdowns dropped. He had 2 total touchdowns after 12 in 2023. Bigsby started to take control of that backfield. And to be honest with you, Bigsby looked better. I don't think the Jaguars are going to draft a running back. Now,
no, they won't. There's no way.
they have so many holes, right? So
Yeah.
they're going to go in with a 1-2 punch of Etienne and Bigsby. And they do have different skill sets though, right? So they're both going to be on the field, but I don't know if Etienne's ever going to get that workhorse roll back.
And I don't know if he needs it. I mean, look at what the Tampa Bay Bucks did with Liam Cohen last year. I mean, they were even using a third back in Sean Tucker at times. So I think there's definitely a world where if Cohen's able to install a similar system that the Bucks were able to run, both guys can be relevant. I mean, I would definitely follow the draft capital. Etienne was a first-round pick. I believe Bigsby was a second or third-round pick. But still, I mean, they invested
fourth.
And that's still even shows you more. Like, follow the draft capital. It's a new regime. I would think Etienne will get the first crack, so it's his job to lose. I mean, if you're in dynasty leagues, I'm probably holding him.
Third round.
Okay, so if you're in dynasty leagues, I'm probably holding him. I would try to go out and acquire him for cheap. I don't think the asking price is going to be too high, so that's why I'm saying I wouldn't trade him if I have him because you're selling him low. But if I'm out there and I'm a buyer, I would try to get him on the cheap because, like you said, 2 years ago, that's a 260 touch guy. Injuries happen all the time. So, either guy, you would imagine if one guy is to get injured, the other guy is going to step in and just be the complete third down back. They are different skill sets, but, in Tampa Bay, we saw the running back used a lot as pass catchers out of the backfield. So I think he'll be, similar to that Rachaad White role, but also have some in between the tackle stuff as well.
Yeah, I agree with you too 100% about the dynasty. Like, I actually sent out a trade offer for Etienne last week. I think I offered like a late second round pick for him. It did not get accepted, which, if I have Etienne, would I move him for a late 2? I don't know, because it's such a deep running back. It's such a deep running back class where like you're just picking his replacement and hoping he's better.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, it's just like you're not going to get full value. You're better off just holding on to him and hoping that he can have a resurgence. I mean, he's still only 25. It's not like he's that old. Obviously, I wouldn't say he has the most tread on the tires. I mean, think about it. His rookie year, he missed the whole entire season, basically. Last year, he had 150 carries. So it's not like he has a ton of tread on the tires. Like he could have, be pushing 300 touches this year. And you're like, oh, wow. Like, where was that? But ultimately, he really doesn't have that many carries in the NFL. So I'm holding him, hoping that, he can figure it out. And I think he'll have a fair share crack at it with Liam Cohen. But I think both guys will be utilized. But if I'm picking between Etienne or Bigsby, I'm still rocking with Etienne for now.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment as well. Well, everyone, that wraps up our Jacksonville Jaguars mini pod here. Appreciate you tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit our comments, Jags fans. Is it Mason Graham at pick 5? What else is in the cards? Or would you be okay with an offensive weapon to help out Trevor Lawrence? Hey, or maybe offensive line. Maybe offensive line could be in play too. So let us know in the comments. Who do you want to see your Jags pick at 5? Reagan, last words from you, my friend.
I just wanted to say, is it Etienne or Bigsby as well? Like, who are you guys rocking with? I mean, you've gotten to see both guys as kind of the lead back. So who do you believe should be the RB1 getting the lion's share of the touches or the higher snap percentage? Agreed. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. So peace out.
We'll catch you next time on Around the Felt.